What's up? Good morning. What's up? Hey, I am Myra Rollins, and you have found me on YouTube. What took you so long? So, if this is your first time tuning into my channel, thank you. And I just want to remind you and tell you and give you some information on some other things. Number one, I also have a podcast. It is called In the Middle with Myra. And on today's episode of that podcast, we are talking all things fertility. We had a doctor, Dr. Lisa King, who is a specialist in fertility and endocrinology. So please tune in to that first or after you watch this video because it's all layered. That's what I do. My podcast goes into more facts and other women's stories and experiences and general information on different topics. And what I come on YouTube and do most of the time is give you a little bit more personal information about me. So my podcast is kind of like In the Middle with Myra, and my YouTube page is like Myra in the Middle. That makes sense? So I want to share with you a little bit about my own fertility journey. I'm going to take you through about 30 years in about 3 minutes. Ready? Here we go. Number one, you have to know that when I was six years old, the seed of adoption was planted in my heart. I couldn't articulate it. I didn't know what it means. Probably couldn't even say it. Definitely couldn't spell it. But at 6, I vividly remember having the desire to, when I get older, I want to help other kids that don't have homes. I promise you, I'm not exaggerating, not trying to make this story sound better, but at 6, God did that. Planted it in my heart because he knew that fast forward about 20 something years later, I would need that to get me over. Okay, so store that in your mind. So now go to about 26. I started dating my wonderful husband, and we kind of went on a whirlwind. We started dating in February, and we got married in November, same year. So we started having deep conversations really, really quickly. I was like, who's your mama name? What's your credit like? We were just asking all these deep questions, like on date 3 and 4. And so one of the things that I shared with him was that I wanted to adopt, and that was one of my deal breakers. You had to have good credit, love the Lord, and want to adopt. And check, check, check. So he was like, I haven't ever thought about adoption for myself, but I'm not opposed to it. So when the time is right, yeah, I'm all in. So we got married, and I immediately got on the pill because I was 26 and I was like, I still have the world to see. I want to travel before I start having babies and stuff. So I got on the pill, and we started looking into fostering while I was still on the pill. It was just something that I wanted to do. And so we started bringing kids into our home. We had about 13 kids total during this time, and I'm still on the pill. I'm not trying to be a mom, but just trying to help kids out in the interim until I'm ready. And so we went to church one Sunday, and if you have never heard of Vody, Voddim Bacham, I believe it's Bachum, he is a pastor, and he has this just, I don't know, just his voice and his presence is so authoritative that when you hear him, you just say, yes, sir. And so he was speaking from the pulpit, and this booming voice was just challenging all Christians that it is our duty and responsibility to have as many arrows for the kingdom as possible. And he was like, stop being selfish. And he just was just on one about Christians having families and big families. And so Eric and I got convicted that day, and we walked away, and I threw away all my birth control pills, and we started trying. And after trying for several months, it just wasn't happening. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, I've been on the pill for so long. I'm sure it's just that. Let me go check this out. Maybe at the worst end of the spectrum, they might put me on some fertility medications. Let's get this going. So I start getting all the workups, and because in my mind, I'm never fathoming that something majorly wrong is wrong, I don't take Eric with me to the visits. I'm an optimist, and I always want to be, but sometimes optimists go into things blind without really looking into the what ifs. And so, with my optimistic self, when I get the news delivered to me that I have premature ovarian failure, which pretty much means that I went through early menopause, I wasn't ready. I hadn't prepped myself mentally, emotionally. I went by myself, so Eric or no one else was there with me. And so I have this very matter of fact doctor, this male doctor that just told me the facts. Straight face, no woo woo, I'm sorry. And I just wasn't ready. I remember going to my car and just bawling. Because I felt that I just walked into this brick wall that I ran into because I just didn't even think about it. I didn't brace myself for impact. And so I called Eric, and I remember he met me at a Catfish King because when I am feeling low, I eat. And so, and if anyone knows me, they know that French fries will always be in that equation. So I had some fried fish and chips as I bawled with the big red. And so Eric and I had some things to consider because my condition means that I have no eggs. And so we had to consider if we were going to have biological children, and if so, by what means. Were we going to, not biological, yeah, biological children, meaning that it would be his sperm, but not my egg. And so for me, it was just too much for me to handle and to emotionally process. Like, whose egg would it be? Would we go to a donor bank and get a random stranger's egg? Would I get a friend's egg, a family's egg? And people offered me their eggs. That's when you know you got true friends, when people just start volunteering their eggs. But it was so weird to me to think that, yeah, I would take one of your eggs, cousin, because one of my cousins offered me her egg. So sweet. But I was like, so it would be my cousin and my baby. And so when we sitting at Christmas, it would just, I just couldn't do it. And then there's things to consider, like once they do the fertilization of the egg, they do multiple. So then we would have they would implant it in me, but then there would be extra embryos. What would we do with those embryos? Would I just keep having babies because I have these embryos that we've made? Would I discard them after a certain amount of time? Would I donate them? So it's all these factors that people have to consider, and I personally just wasn't ready. So we decided not to, and that's really my story. And what I want to tell you is a couple of things. Number one, you can be a mother without being a biological mother. I have 3 children. One is my stepson, 2 of my kids that I have adopted, and I fully and completely love them with my life. And I am a mom in every way. And so if you're wondering, can I love a kid that I haven't birthed, or will it be just as impactful, and will the experience be just as great? My answer is a resounding yes. Number 2, you can have a blessing that's good even though it's different than what you would have originally planned for yourself. Your blessing can still be good even if it's different than what you had originally planned for yourself. So I saw myself having 3 or 4 biological kids, then adopting, and that being the icing on the cake. But that wasn't my story. But my motherhood journey in my family is amazing. And now I would not have changed the script, because I think about, if I had a biological child first, I may not have gone on to do adoption. So the kids that I have right now, I may or may not have. And so it's still good. It's different, but it's still good. Number 3, don't make pregnancy an idol. Oftentimes, I still miss not having the experience of having life in my womb. And for so long, I was just down because I made the actual physical process of pregnancy an idol, and I wanted it so bad. But when I released that, then I was okay. And the 4th thing, which leads into another video that I'm going to do, is this: there are reasons why God says no. God told me a no. I didn't like it. I felt it was wrong. And it led me on a journey of exploring why in the world does God say no on things like this? So, if you want to know what God told me about his no, click on the link to this next video.